I'm recording.
Hey.
Hello, welcome to LOUDdispatch with your hosts
Mark,
and Cheech.
that guy.
Maybe we should introduce. Let's try this. Let's reverse this real quick. I'm gonna
Introduce each other.
Yeah. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to LOUDdispatch. My.
All right, let me try.
All right,
Let me
you go
try.
ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. You do this one. And of course the internet freezes. Of course. Because why wouldn't it?
And he froze.
It froze. So let's
There he
try
is.
this again.
All right, we're going to do this again. All right.
All right, last time.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Loud Dispatch. I'm your host, Mark. I'm here with Cheech.
See, you did the same thing. See?
It seems more flowing. So, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
But I got this.
Let's do it together. No, go ahead.
All right. Hello, and welcome to LOUDdispatch with your hosts, Mark.
And Cheech.
That's me.
That's him. I'm pointing.
We're pointing at each other, kind of. But you get the idea. Anyway, tonight we're really excited. We thought, we've been on like music and genres, and the last episode was cinema. So let's talk a little bit about photography, and let's talk about some digital work, and kind of like get an idea of like what's what the hell we're doing here.
Yeah.
First off, so let's take it back a minute. Photography's been around for a long time. It dates back, to like the 17th century or 18th century. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of different versions of it. The most the one that we're the most familiar with is the silver halide. Old pictures, if you see like
Which we discussed this back in the video one.
Right. Just to go back in depth real quick, when you see people like in vintage pictures not smiling, it's because they had to hold that pose for like a very, very long time in order to get the silver halide just to expose. So to smile for like, a good like 30 minutes and like keep that pose was totally difficult. So that's why, this is. What are you trying to
I was holding my pose.
Oh, see, exactly. Yeah, see, takes me a second.
See, you get them stoned back in the day. They'd have smiled for an hour, no problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? And probably been happy to just stand there still, not doing anything. Sit down. Hey, sit in that chair. They'd be like, all right.
We good. Well, you need anything else?
Yeah.
Is
water.
Water? All right, we good. But then I thought, when Mark and I were talking about this, and we were talking about, like talking points and whatnot, we both have small children, and, there's a lot of kids that are growing up now that they take a picture with their cell phone or, a digital camera or whatever, and it makes this noise, and kids will never know what that noise is. It's actually the shutter of a camera, and that's the whole purpose of taking a picture, was that shutter opening and exposing the silver halide, like, you know what I mean, to the light that was being brought in through the lens and magnified. So it's one of those things where this is like, like when I was growing up, the hashtag was the pound sign. Like, what, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It wasn't a hashtag.
Right. So
it was the pound symbol.
Right. So things change, obviously. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, not pound like the weight either.
No. Like
it was a number. It was a symbol to signify it was a number.
Correct. So
number 9.
So to get to where we're at today is like amazing, right? Like, my cell phone has 3 different lenses on the front or 3 different lenses on the back and 2 on the front.
Yep.
We have DSLR cameras that shoot, like, you can basically shoot video on your cell phone and have higher quality than some of the like extremely expensive cameras out there.
So I've done photography on a professional level
Mm-hmm.
and used a very good DSLR camera. And I will tell you right now, it was nowhere near the megapixel capability and resolution capability of my iPhone right now.
Right.
You know, and these were, I mean, I got paid to do this, you know.
And here's the thing: I have an extensive collection of vintage cameras, and I have a lot of
He does.
like.
We'll show you soon.
Yeah. You'll see. And I have a lot of like new digital cameras. I'm currently running a Sony Alpha mirrorless lens. It's the first like mirrorless lens camera, and you think about things like this where it doesn't really
That's
mean
incredible.
much to people. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Like low light situations and whatnot. My point being is that you can take the shittiest camera. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like a digital camera. You could take the shittiest camera. However, as long as you have a few things in that, this is what creates the image. Depth of field, focus. If you're doing black and gray, your grayscale, you know what I mean?
Contrast, yeah.
Contrast, framing. What am I looking at? Is this an interesting picture? Are there leading lines? What is making this picture interesting to look at other than
the same as graphic design or really any other art? All these principles apply to visual art. Mm-hmm. There's a science behind what makes something appealing to the human eye.
Correct.
Color wise, perspective wise, framing, very important key. Right. What I tend to suck at, honestly,
framing
in photography.
Framing is like my best feature, even though these Zoom videos are terrible. Yeah, but wait until you see.
Well, see, we just move over a little bit.
See, yeah, right. Framing for me is like fantastic because I think that creates the image. Once you get like a good frame, the rest of it is all downhill from there. I mean, your exposure, your settings. You have some photographers that like are very analytical about it. They think about it a lot. They do a lot of like, pressure, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But if you get your framing correct and you get your f-stops correct, your settings correct, your depth of field correct. And when I said depth of field, it's so we see images in flat linearly, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to create depth in that picture. So we have a foreground, a background, we have grounds in between, something that creates depth from the background to the foreground. This is what depth of field is, right?
Yeah. Think about your focal point being clear.
Right.
Deep in the background, you don't see detail necessarily. And in the foreground, you might be looking so far beyond that even the foreground could be slightly out of exposure or blurry, out of focus.
Right.
And that would create a nice depth of field to let you know that what you're looking at isn't right in front of you and it's not way off in the distance. It's in between. And then based on everything else, your eye and your mind determine what it's looking at.
Right. When we look at an image, we tend to look, right to left, left to right, however you want to, describe it. But when you actually look at an image, right, you're looking for certain things. When you look at a picture, leading lines, and when I say leading lines, I mean lines that lead to things, help with framing. Mm-hmm. So let's say we're taking a picture of a bridge, right? Mm-hmm. We're taking this picture of a bridge. You obviously want to have the bridge as a straight line. This then helps create depth of field. However, if you shoot it at a slight angle, you now have more depth of field, and just cutting off your angle creates completely different framing and completely different ways of looking at this image.
Yeah.
Now,
and the perspective that it provides also gives it. So I don't know who knows about perspective drawing. This is another podcast some other day, but you will see that up close, the bridge side is larger. And as it goes into the distance, it narrows out. And ultimately, if it were to extend it to infinity, we would see it end in a point, as everything would end at that point that goes in that direction. And that's what perspective drawing is, learning how to draw everything in the right angles to create that perspective. And you use that in every art form again.
Right. So another concept that we also use is, your grayscale. Like if you're shooting black and white, you use grayscale, or your contrast ratio. Grayscale is your blackest black to your whitest white. How many colors can you fit in between? Mm-hmm. This is going to create a better resolution. The more colors that you're able, the more colors of gray that you can fit in there. Same with contrast. Contrast, when you have heavy contrast, more colors to work with, you tend to get a smoother, clearer image, and that's what creates,
well, you get a lot more detail, which creates that smooth image. So
correct.
I'm thinking right now how badly we need visuals on this podcast. So let's look at it this way. Think about painting something in black and white.
Right.
Just black and just white. Two colors. You can only detail so much. Silhouettes, you don't see a face. You don't see any shirt marks, wrinkles. Mm-hmm. And then now add, say, 1,000 different colors of gray, from almost perfect black, almost black, to almost pure white, and everything in between that would create those, that would transition. Now you could get all the details. You could see all the wrinkles in the shirt just with the different grays. So, a visual would really help, but I think that kind of lets people understand.
Right.
Contrast, black and white, dark and light.
So I don't know why the Michael Jackson song Black or White just came to mind, but whatever, you get the idea. So the reason why we're talking about this for the past 10 minutes, and this is only touching the surface of photography in general. Photography is its own thing, but this is only touching the basics so that you guys understand that we get it. We get photography. We understand what we're looking for. We get how this works, right? Even though our Zoom social media looks shit, whatever. You get the idea, right?
We're also working people with families, so we're working on getting that up to par.
And we're quarantined. We got a bunch of stuff that's going on, so it's tough.
Yeah.
But we want you guys to engage with us. So, with that being said, Mark, when we first started talking about this, I said, this is going to be one of those things. And Mark goes, yeah. And I got a gripe. And I was I
do.
And I've been thinking about it for a minute now. And, I told him today, I said, we may get into a small debate.
Okay.
But it's going to be a conversation. So, Mark,
let me begin with my gripe. I will.
Please do.
So, look, I need some wine. Hang on. Need to wet the whistle.
Of course. Wet your whistle. Do what you need to do. By the way, tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our sponsor, COVID-19. COVID-19, not only great for the economy, but also we have moved into yellow, which I think the next step is teal.
Polka.com soon, in the next 2 or 3.
Yeah, there's how many colors are in the Crayola set now? We got to hit all of them before we get to green. Green's the very last. There's a hunter green before that. It's crazy. But anyway,
lime is in there.
Right. Nobody knows what they mean, but you know what? Let's support that. You know what? I'm still wearing face masks. I'm still being protective.
And I'm still living my best life.
I still am. Just be smart about it is all I'm saying. People, wash your hands, be safe about it. It really is a real thing. And I'm making this in a joke because it really touches home to me. And it's something that, I'd rather.
I cope with humor. So I joke about everything.
Exactly my point,
I had a dog get hit by he actually hit a moving car, and I called him Bounce for 3 weeks. He bounced off and lived.
See, and this is kind of why I bring this up anyway. So let's get back to Mark's gripe here. Yeah. Mark, let's talk. Let's talk.
Here's my gripe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. So, just because you own a camera and use the camera,
okay,
you're not you're not a photographer. You are by definition, but
Whose definition?
I think just the standard definition of photographer would be somebody who takes pictures with a device called a camera, that captures the image. But what I'm trying to say is there's more to it. Like we've been talking about. If you want to just take pictures and document your life, that's great. You don't have to learn anything. If you're putting stuff out there and trying to start a photography business, I really suggest that you go out there, you learn the craft, learn the art, learn how to do it. You don't even have to use it. Sometimes some of the greatest art is breaking rules, but I just ask that people take it seriously. It would be like, I own a hammer, but I sure as hell am not a carpenter. I'm about as far from a carpenter as you can get, but I own hammers. I have nails. I have lumber. I can build stuff, but I am no way a carpenter.
Right. Everybody takes pictures.
Yes.
What you're getting at, but
I don't consider. So I've done it professionally, more on the graphics side of things, but I have done it professionally and been paid for it.
Right.
And I still wouldn't consider myself a good photographer by any means. Like I said, I'm not natural at framing it. I understand lighting and everything. I know how to crop an image very well, but to see a pure image and take it is just, that's something that my siblings both have. Very, very good photographers, natural. I'm more in the art and, using my hand to craft something.
Sure.
So.
And which are both equally important. Now, taking a picture, I'm of the mindset of I like to take a picture and have to do nothing to it.
Oh yeah.
No editing. That's the way I like to have things set up when I do things.
That's knowing your stuff.
Yeah.
Having the equipment to do it. Sometimes you need filters on those $1,000 lenses. I mean, to really, yeah. But that is an ultimate goal, right?
You do. And like realistically, I love to be able to take my camera, go outside and take a picture with what I have. There was a movement, a cinema movement years and years ago called Dogma 19. And what it was a group of filmmakers that wanted to make actual films again. So in other words, there was like a plot structure, but no actual like script at all. Everything was like, kind of go as you go. There were no props. There was no nothing. There was a like kind of like setup for them. But like for the most part, they had to make a movie. Nobody got credit for it. None of the actors got credit for it. None of the directors got credit for it. You had to do it all in camera edits. You had to pay money to become a Dogma 19 like filmmaker. And people did this because they were like, we have to bring film back to the way it was. Like film needs to be film. And that I think is true. Like, and some of these movies are actually pretty damn good. Like they're like,
I'd believe it. Yeah.
It's like Dogma 19-1, Dogma 19-2. Like they literally don't have titles. Like that's what it is.
Okay.
If you ever want to look it up. It's experimental. Experimental film obviously is weird to begin with, and you have to have a totally different mindset to even watch it because it's art, it's not film. When we watch a movie, we watch something, we look at a picture, right? We want a story. And when you don't get a story, when you get something that makes you think instead of makes you know, it's weird. You know what I mean? Like you really have to like you really have to do something with that. So with that being said, let's say first off, we've already established that you don't need to go out and buy yourself one of those like, $1,500 DSLR cameras, $1,500 DSLR cameras. Not saying that I don't own
and then the lenses to make it really worth it,
Right. I'm not saying that I don't own them because I do. But
I'm not saying you can't own them.
Right. But I also take pictures professionally and, make money off of that. So that's, part of my profession. And, same with Mark. Like, would I say that I'm a photographer? Yes. But would I say that I'm an amateur photographer? Yes, absolutely. Have I gone to film school? Do I have degrees for it? Absolutely. But I put myself in that category because I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I want people to keep in mind that, like, photography is all in how you interpret it. Now, let's say I had this huge following that actually saw the images that I put out, might be a different story. I don't know. And, I'm planning on putting a lot of pictures out there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff that you see on like Instagram, like our Instagram pages, are just like pictures that I like one-off shot just because I like taking weird pictures. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, documenting things and,
correct.
I'm more of a documenter with photography and, like if I see something weird, I want a picture of it. Like the person I had seen with a shirt that said, she was selling flowers on the side of on the road, and it said, when she turned around, it said, "Eat shit and die." I was like, that was amazing.
I saw a car yesterday on my way to work, yesterday or 2 days ago, that had written on it, "Honk if you think that bitch Carol Baskins killed her husband." And I was trying so hard to take a picture of it, and I couldn't, like, to document it, and like it was so funny to me.
We'll do bumper. I love funny bumper stickers, and I have a million stories because I commute a lot, and we'll have to do just a podcast on telling our favorites.
Yeah.
One more. I was behind a guy during the election with Trump, and it said, what was it, 2018, right? He said, "Bernie, 2018, because why the fuck not?" It was just so beautiful. It was so funny at the time. I don't want to get political ever.
Yeah,
I don't have an opinion on this podcast, but it was just the funniest bumper sticker I think I've ever seen at the time.
So getting back to topic, right? Like, let's so photography. So we go from, like, the age of like actual celluloid film. We go from different sizes. So we move into the digital realm, right? Which is where we start. We start at like 0.1 megapixel cameras, 0.2 megapixel cameras. I guarantee you, if you turn over your phone right now, it's going to be like 24 megapixels, like megapixels. And we were talking about that. That was my dryer, by the way. Clothes are clean, bitches. What's good?
Nice.
But like, you think about it, and it's like you've got this like instant gratification. You can see the image, obviously, and with the more megapixels, as we've talked about before, it doesn't clarify the image, although it can. It gives more of a curvature if you look at it, which is a totally like kind of different subject. Like when we talk about music, right? And we talk about waves. I know I'm getting off topic, but just follow me on this one because it kind of has the same idea. So when you talk about music and you talk about waves and you talk about sampling rates, right? You take one sound wave. Okay. A sampling rate is how many times you sample where it hits on that wave, right? So if one sound wave is like 19 waves, right? Waves per sample. That means that it gets sampled 19 times.
Mm-hmm.
Your wave files are typically like, in your 40s, 50s. That means that they sample 40 or 50 times in one sound wave. You know what I mean? Like, or in 1 second, depending on how, how it's set up. MP3s cut that in half. Okay. So when we talk about the megapixels, yes, they have a big to do with what your image looks like, but on the screen sizes that you're looking at them, you can't really tell the difference until you blow them up.
Yeah.
That's why we say the megapixels don't really mean much until you blow them up. Now, when you blow them up, you have more sample rate, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
To kind of give you that, you know what I mean, like that picture, that image, that clarity.
Yeah.
Whereas with a smaller, byte rate, you get less clarity as you blow it up. So that's where we come into the play. Do megapixels have a purpose? Yes, they do. Is it for, do you need like 96 megapixel camera to take a picture of, something that you're going to look at on your phone? Absolutely not. No. You're not going to see it. You're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So getting back to Mark's gripe, as not everybody being a photographer, these are the points that we're getting at. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that you have to keep in mind and take into consideration when you're doing photography. The clarity of your image. Mm-hmm. Clarity is key. If you can't see the picture, then what's the point of taking it?
Sometimes, yes, but sometimes the art form itself actually lends to having some blurry areas.
Absolutely.
Depending on what you're trying to capture, or what emotion you're trying to evoke. Again, with art and emotion, you're taking the photo and you want to evoke an emotion. So, but clarity, especially if you're not using clarity in all the image, where you are using it, it needs to be very crisp.
Yes. I completely agree with you.
I have some trivia for you when you're done. Go ahead.
Go for it. Give me some trivia. Throw it out.
So are you familiar with Photoshop?
Yes.
And editing. Okay. Have you ever heard the terms burn and dodge?
Absolutely.
Do you know how they're used in current, photo editing?
Yeah.
Do you know how they were originally done?
No.
Way back in the day, like Ansel Adams, right?
No.
If you wanted to, burn and dodge. Burn would be overexposing an area, and dodge would be underexposing an area. So what they would do to dodge an area. So if you wanted an area that was darker on your photo, especially back in the day when it took 15 minutes for the photo to capture, you would sit there with say a disc on a stick, and you would actually move it in circles around the area that you want to darken.
Correct.
And that would let less light in over that time period and would darken that area. It wouldn't develop the same. Now, if you wanted just an area to be brighter, what they would do is they would actually cut out an area of like a board or something, cut out a circle and hold it up for a little while, and then and let that area get more light in it, and then they would bring it out, let it re-expose. And that was the original version of burn and dodge.
So this is brilliant. So now we're talking about like antique versions of like
same technologies used now.
Right.
You're just lightening an area or darkening an area in Photoshop.
So when we talk about photography, right, what we used to do with film was you would actually underexpose, underexpose your first picture, right? Like, let's say you wanted to take a side-by-side picture, right? You would underexpose your first picture, and it would be on one half of the film. The other half would have black silk in the background, because black silk does not absorb any light whatsoever. Okay. Then you would rewind the film so that it would actually take the picture over again on the silver halide, only reversing the images. So you're still underexposing. Actually, you're taking it at more of a proper exposure, because you want to have them to be the same. You know what I mean?
And you're redeveloping the image,
right,
with different placement of
right,
tools for darkening and lightening.
Which when you put that into it, it basically becomes this one image, but of the same thing on both sides. So it's like early photoshopping. So when people like talk about filters and like, oh, I use filters, oh, you use Photoshop, oh, you did this, you did editing, we've been doing this forever. You realize this, right? Like,
they would literally hold up like amber see-through material, and
motherfuckers, what do you think movie magic is? This is what it is. It's photography and it's
lighting, and oh my god,
the same thing. Yes,
that's my thing. Like, and I feel that way about people that own Photoshop and Illustrator. And Adobe Pro. Just because you own them, it doesn't mean
that you know how to use them.
That you're good at it. You can be, and I push you to be. But you got to realize that it doesn't make you, just because you own a handgun doesn't mean you know how to shoot it.
Right.
Just because you own a fast car doesn't mean you're a race car driver.
Right.
All those things you got to learn. There's education and lessons to be learned, and all these things, and it takes experience and time.
Now, with that being said,
that's my final thought. I said it now. That was good. All right.
With that being said, I mean, we're encouraging people to do this. Like, yes. I want you to do this. I don't want you to go out and think that it's the camera that's the problem. Like, oh my God, well, it's just because I have a shitty camera.
I need a new one. This one sucks,
Right, this one sucks. No, you can literally take, like, Polaroids are coming back. Polaroid.
Yeah.
What the shit? Like,
worst picture quality ever.
Oh my God, what are you talking about? Yes, literally. And this is what's coming back. So my point being is that it has absolutely nothing to do with the camera that you're using. It's about what you're doing with the camera that you're using.
Yeah.
I have so many.
And knowing how to use it.
I have so much money in, like, photography equipment, yet some of my favorite cameras are the ones that I can't even buy film for anymore because they're so vintage. Yeah. And, like, I can still find a way to use them to take pictures by using the viewing glass and, like, the image qualities from it. The same way that you can use, Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that to take an image and create something more than what it really is using that.
Yeah. Yeah. And my whole thing is just, I don't want you to go out there and be a hack. Learn how to do it. Talk to people, network, talk to us. We've pretty much dabbled in almost every art form we could think of.
I guarantee you that if you have a question and you know somebody that knows anything about photography, even us, even if you come to us, if you know anybody that has any questions about it, ask.
Artists love to talk about their shit, right?
Yes. As dumb as it sounds, ask. Ask. Because the worst you're going to get is a, really? You don't know? And then, boom, knowledge dropped on you. Learn something every day. Why not?
Yeah.
Especially if you actually want to do this. Like, if you want to, like, take pictures, that's cool. You take pictures. That's what everybody does. But if you want to be a photographer and you, like, really want to make this a thing, it's not just about what you're building up to. It's about what you can accomplish with what you have. You know what I mean?
Let's classify two things. How about pictures and photos?
Okay.
Pictures are what people take every day of, something on the side of the road or their kids or just a random quick snap. Photos are taken for an artistic purpose to evoke an emotion based on the framing, the contrast. Can we do that? Like, would you agree with that? That you would classify a photo and a picture for this purpose as two different things?
Absolutely. You take pictures more to document what goes on throughout the day, whereas you take photos.
Crime labs take pictures. You know what I mean? Right. They don't care with the framing. They just want to see it.
Right. Whereas you take photos to invoke an emotion or detail the beauty of something, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be able to show.
To me, that's the emotion of awe,
or basically tell a story.
Yeah.
When you take a picture, you want to be able to tell a story. You want to be able to translate something. You want to be able to create some sort of talk, some sort of, like, discussion, right? Exactly, that you can have over this piece. So that's I would agree with that. Now, can pictures be photos? This is a question that I'm phrasing to you. I'll answer.
Yeah. I think that a picture could become a photo.
Right.
You might accidentally capture the perfect shot.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that the framing is beautiful and the lighting is perfect. And, with cameras today on our cell phones and things, they actually are beginning to, like, add the filters into the photo, low light situations, and things like that. So it becomes easier for a picture to become a photo, but I would say that a picture wasn't intentionally meant to be a photo.
Mark, do you know what a light meter is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there, a light meter, what it does is it reads the caliber of light that's hitting a subject. So
temperature as in kelvins.
Right.
Right.
So when you have daylight, it burns at like 5,500 degrees. It burns blue. When you have tungsten balance, which is what we have inside typically, it burns at like a 3,200 degrees, which is more of an orangey color.
Mm-hmm.
So you have different colors. Now, if you combine those two and try to take a picture, it screws everything up.
Yep.
And of
the
course,
camera can't decipher the two lights, and
right, you get all these weird colors that normally wouldn't be there. When you take a picture outside, you sometimes, depending on how bright it is, you actually have to use what's called a UV filter,
mm-hmm.
which takes you down like an entire step and a half on your f-stop scale. So depending on what, UV filter choice you use, it'll take you down. But it's a combination of depth of field and your aperture settings that are going to give you, and your shutter speed, obviously, that are going to give you and create this depth of field.
For those of you that don't know, shutter speed is how fast the shutter opens and closes, as you would imagine.
Right.
But you would have to imagine how quick, a very bright day, how fast that shutter has to open and close to not overexpose that, because those sensors are so sensitive now that they will instantly white out. Like, so, bright sunny day, if you leave that open for even a fraction more of a second, your photo's washed out.
Completely.
Now, aperture or f-stop, really the aperture is kind of the combination of both, right? F-stop would be how big the shutter opens and closes.
Yeah.
That actually more determines your depth of field.
Yeah.
But it also affects brightness a lot.
It does. And because of that, it not only does it reflect on your that, but it also depicts on your color as well.
Oh yeah.
If you have you got to figure that your apertures are set to like different settings, how wide they open, which means how much light they let in, right?
Yes.
So you can have a wide aperture but a like very fast shutter speed, and it lets in a ton of light because it's magnified through the lens, and it hits
really quickly.
Right, and it hits your mirror, then it hits your CCD, which is your charge coupled device, which changes all that light into ones and zeros. That's
what people need to realize, that large opening, really fast shutter speed is not the same thing as doing a very small opening at a slower shutter speed.
Right.
They might sound like polar opposites in that they would work the same, but they would not. You would have totally different depth of field based on those two different, the smaller, longer exposure,
right,
and the larger, shorter exposure. Totally changes the photo.
Not to mention, like your lens length also determines what you're trying to accomplish with it, like what kind of lens you're working with, whether it
zooms and macros and
zooms, macros. You have different sizes of lenses. Like, for example, your typical prime lens that like comes on a DSLR camera, the lens that comes with it is going to be like I think it's like 155 to 55 or something like that. It's a pretty decent zoom lens, and it gives you a basic zoom. Now, the difference between a digital zoom and an optical zoom is that the lenses actually separate and move to create the zoom.
That's mechanical. That's
right.
Optical.
Whereas with a digital zoom, what it does is it actually magnifies each pixel. So if you have a 24 megapixel phone, right, it's going to magnify all those megapixels in that. So you're not actually getting like a true magnification. You're just getting a magnification of.
You're not getting more detail. You're just making a bigger pixel.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like you have 30 pixels that would show more detail. You just have one big green pixel,
Right. So with that being said,
it's not that big though, ever.
No. Optical is truly the way to go when you're looking for clarity and when you're looking for definition. That's why you have telephoto lenses. That's
a lot more expensive too.
Yeah, and that's why you have these different kinds of lenses. We can go into glass as well, because glass, like in my personal opinion, I've worked with a lot of different like lens manufacturers. I think that Carl Zeiss is probably one of the most amazing lens developers and lens makers there are out there. He makes Sony. He makes lenses for NASA. I mean, he makes NASA. He makes like tons of
I was
stuff.
thinking Nassau, Bahamas.
NASA. I don't know what that was. I have no idea.
That's all right. So what I want to say is, I mean, we'll get into lenses and things in another photography's, we will cover this multiple times over this podcast lifespan. We're going to bring photographers in. We're going to show work when we're more capable of doing that. I don't want to go too much further because we're going to start describing lenses and things. And I think that's a whole podcast in itself, showing photos of what macros can do and things, zooms, explaining I think we've bored you guys enough yet. We've been on a little close to an hour now.
Like 40 minutes. Doing pretty good.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
No, I know. I know for a fact.
OPP.
Oh, you know me. Yeah. Which is something, Mark, would you like to show them what you got? Do you?
Oh, yeah, I got a ukulele. I'll get another one, but when I learn how to play it, we'll do sing-alongs. LOUDdispatch sing-alongs.
Play a couple chords. I'll sing something.
I don't know.
I'll just make
my strumming's not that good yet.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I don't want to do this.
No. Do it. Just do it. Bring it close to the mic. Close to the... Come on, man. Let's do this. We're gonna make a LOUDdispatch song.
Yeah, right.
Just good. When you create this, create the jam, and you can hear the music coming
from the band. Yeah, man.
We could totally do.
We're not going to do that yet.
We're not.
Nope.
Only what, like Dispatch 5?
So,
we can't do that yet.
So if you've hung in this long, that's your special treat for right now.
Yeah. There's more coming.
Oh yeah, a lot more. We'll actually have songs someday.
We're back to the Steel City hoodie. By the way, I don't know how that happened.
We're in a hot weather gear.
So tell us, what would you guys like to hear about in the next podcast?
Yeah,
because
give us a topic.
Somebody please.
Topic us.
I'm getting so bored with talking about Mark. I'm like, Mark, what do you want to talk about? And he's like,
I leave it up to Cheech to pick it.
We can talk about the rat squirrels and
I want to do a whole thing on squaggers and
you said something about
squirrels.
A garbage coon. I was like, I can't do a garbage can, half raccoon. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I can see it.
Yeah,
but anyways.
Yeah. So we want to hear from you guys. Please, by all means, reach out to us. Like I said, you're more than welcome to join our Zoom,
If we don't hear from somebody with a topic, we're going to do shitty movie reviews.
Oh, man.
Like really stupid ones. There's a slapstick comedy movie from like the 80s that I'm sure you've seen it. I can't remember its name, but I'll let you know someday. And I'll tell you what, it was effing hilarious.
So it's funny that you bring that up. I was actually talking about a movie just the other day called The Convent. It's something that was rarely heard of. It was like a B movie, but it was one of those subgenre movies where it was horror comedy, right? They basically,
I think I've actually heard of it.
Dude, they basically did everything in black light. Well, this was The Convent, let's take you in. It was early 2000s, and there was a devil worshiping group that came to this haunted church that was abandoned because of all the hauntings that went on, and everybody turned into demons, including the priest and stuff. And dude, it's so bad that it's good. There's the devil worshippers are oh, you're free holies, boys, you're free holy, you're this, and then there's of course the group of teenagers that's we just want to see for ourselves, is it true, does it really happen, and then you got it's great, it's wonderful. So if you guys don't pick a topic, we're just gonna talk about shitty movies, and I promise you're not gonna
somebody.
People are probably going to like them. Yeah.
I don't mind doing movie reviews. I think we could tear some shit up on movie reviews and song reviews, music video reviews. Man, we go back into the 90s and look at some of that shit.
Let's take it back. Take it back to the 90s.
Let's not. This I want to do some movie reviews, yes, but this is not what we want the podcast to be. So we will pick a topic, but we would really rather talk about what you want to hear.
Yeah, and in all honesty, we want to hear from you. I don't care if you think it's stupid or not. Like, I don't even be like comment.
We'll even talk about why there's all kinds of penis and boobies and all the old timey art and statues and stuff. I mean,
oh, that's beautiful. Yes, that's definitely something we can talk about. that's this
the NC-17 podcast.
By the way, for the record, Triple X, remember growing up, everybody was like, oh, you need to see.
Oh, yeah.
None of that shit exists, all right? Like, none of it.
Rated Triple X.
That's why you see, like, so many movies on Netflix and Hulu that are, like, not rated, or they're, like, TV ratings, because, like, the ratings board was just, like, a handful of moms that, like, nobody knew about. I swear to God.
I know. I've learned this recently. Actually,
so
it was literally a group of anonymous random people.
Yeah,
that would, if they heard a swear word, it would be R. If they heard the F bomb, it would be R. If they heard 4 or more F bombs, or you saw a boobie, it was like NC-17. You know.
So what directors would do is they would
release them a cut and then do their own cut.
What they would do is they would actually release a cut that had so much over the top. F-bombs and stuff, and like that they would watch and be like, "We are so appalled," and they'd be like, "This has to be an R rating," and they'd be like, "Well, if we take out 3 out of the 4 fucks and like 1 ass shot, will you give us a PG-13?" And they were like,
"Fine."
I guess so.
That's so much better.
Like, right, and that's all I needed to do from the beginning. Like, you know what I mean?
No, it's brilliant psychology.
It is.
You know, it's brilliant psychology. It's like, I mean, in all honesty, I would have both cuts already made and be like, "Oh, hey, here's this one," and they're like, "Oh no," and you're like, "Oh, well, I got this one." Oh, okay.
But before this, right, when Martin Scorsese was making Mean Streets, he's looking for a distribution house, and Paramount was like, "Yo, we'll put you out," or, you know, his distribution house for Mean Streets, one of his first films with Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, like all these named people from NYU. By the way, Martin Scorsese was he was going to school to be a priest, and then dropped out and went to NYU, met Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, like all these people, and like started making movies. So he made this movie called Mean Streets, and the distribution company was like, "Look, we're not going to put this movie out unless you have a sex scene in it." And he was like, "But it's a gangster film. Why do we don't need how am I going to even fit one in there?" And they're like, "Well, we're not going to put the movie out unless you do." So he literally just made up a dream sequence of, like, you know, like the main character having sex with like the sub character's sister.
Yeah.
For the movie to get released, and they make no reference to it. Nobody ever talks about it. It's not even like he likes her in the movie. So it's like, why do this? Why are we doing this to ourselves? But again, you know, what sells? Like we talked about in the cinema one, you know what I mean? Betamax, like everything. Porn was the biggest one. It is what it is.
Yep.
And so for future thoughts, as far as photography and film and everything like that goes, as far as photography, I think we're getting more into these 3D image like shots, you know what I mean? They're becoming more dependable. They're becoming easily available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually going to become more of the future of what we do. And also more holographic shots, being able to shoot in like a third dimension, like giving an actual depth of field, creating 3D without glasses, the hologram image like we were talking about before, augmented reality, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mark, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts on it are, if you want to be good, go be good. Go get educated, go learn. If you want to take photos, if you want to be a photographer, and in any art form, if you want to learn guitar, if you want to learn ukulele, I strum this thing any chance I get right now. just trying to get used to it, and I'm memorizing chords, and so get educated.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. Buy the ticket, take the ride. Whee!
Yeah. All right, everybody. That's going to be Loud Dispatch for tonight. Have a great evening and a great Memorial Day Monday, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Maybe we'll try and do something on Memorial Day.
Ooh, who knows? We'll see.
Ooh.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you guys.
Peace.